This is Continuum Drag, a podcast where we watch sci-fi, fantasy, and everything in between. This week, Moonbase 3, episodes 3 and 4.
All right, sabotage. Either Blaney or Knight. Which one?
Adam had no reason.
Neither had Bill.
He wanted to go home.
He wanted to resign.
Precisely. He knew we'd be opposed to it. You, me, his wife. If he were desperate enough for a few days at home, it's conceivable he might have done it.
But it didn't work.
He had to accept we had an emergency on our hands.
Which he's done with remarkably good grace, if those are the lengths he went to.
I was only posing a hypothesis.
Oh, some hypothesis. Sabotage. Moonbase 3 is a living organism just like the human body. And deliberate sabotage, like cutting the jugular vein.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast that better show some results, or the podcast council is shutting us down. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
Hey, a question for you. Is this the most bureaucratic show we've ever seen?
Hard to say.
Like, I was trying to think of a show that is more, like, focused on the minutia and the most uninteresting parts of your workday. That's what this show, they're like, this is what we want to focus on.
I mean, one could make an argument Doom Watch was a lot about going to talk to someone who works in the government about their allocation to spending.
Yeah, although I got the sense when I was watching these last two episodes, specifically the third episode, that it's like the equivalent, of like they put a camera in the corner of an office and they just let it run, and they're like, no, don't cut anything. Keep all the boring stuff in. That's what we want. It's not really a TV show as much as like it's like a boring documentary.
It is. They made it the same way they made. Oh, what's that? I was just thinking about it the other day, and now I forgot the name of it. This is pointless. We'll cut this out. What was that movie they made 2 years ago? The one about the guy who ran the Auschwitz.
Oh,
Brian Glazer, right?
Yeah. The Zone of Interest.
Zone of Interest. That's how they made that. They just set up cameras in the corners. Like they shot it like Big Brother.
Is that right?
Yeah. They just set up that house with cameras in the corners of walls and stuff, and the actors just went in and like lived a day.
Well, I mean, something more must have happened than this show.
If only they had Brian Glazer's foresight.
Exactly.
To turn minutia into great cinema. Anyway, speaking of great cinema, Jordan and Brian Glazer, who maybe I should have put on my list here, we've got a big budget feature film recast coming up for Moonbase 3. We're gonna reimagine it for 2025. It's gonna go to your cinemas. It's Apple, I guess, is producing it because who else gets a movie in cinemas anymore? The technology company Apple is making this film.
That's right.
And so we've got 4 major cast members and a director to put into this. So let's run the cast first, I guess, because I think the director is really going to make this film more than, no offense to the cast, but I think the director is going to be the real driving force behind how this becomes something watchable. Let's start with Dr. David Calder.
Okay, I'll just say I have one pick for all these, and it's not so that I'm so confident. It's that I had a kind of feel that I was going for. So you might not agree with it.
I've got 2 picks, so why don't I go and I'll sandwich you. I'll sandwich your picks.
Okay.
I'll be honest, David Calder, star of the show, he runs Moonbase. I guess I kind of went for a prestige picture, which I don't know if that's the right move. I couldn't decide what to do. So I've got 2 options here. I'll start with my first one. I've got Jeffrey Wright.
Not bad. Not a bad pick. Actually, I think we might have picked him before for something. I think he's got a good...
Here's what he's got, Jordan.
What's that?
Good beard.
He does have a good beard. I'll agree with you on that.
Key trait for David Calder.
Yeah. Well, mine goes in a slightly different direction. And I think if there's one real slight that goes against this would be that he might be a little too old for the role. But I was kind of thinking David Calder in every sort of episode seems to yell at people. That seems to be his one defining features. He likes yelling at people. And I thought, who's a good like British actor who also is good at like yelling at people? And I thought, Brian Cox.
Oh, of course. Brian Cox definitely is a very different version of this, but he would be just screaming at people.
Yeah, and again, maybe too old, but you'll see. I kind of aged up the cast to kind of go with that a little bit, which maybe doesn't work. Maybe doesn't like scream eyeballs for Apple or whoever's making this. But
Yeah. You're the elderly version. Maybe you're aiming for an older demographic.
yeah,
My other choice for David Calder, this one I switched as you just did. Is like I'm like, oh right, maybe he should be British since this is the European Union Space Station. And I went. It's a bit of a reach, but what about Colin Firth? What's he up to?
no, you know what? That's not bad. I kind of like that. I think he's got that good actor, always a little bit straight and kind of like on the straight and narrow. He seems very no nonsense. I think he might be the best pick.
He seems like he's a bit charming, but I do think it would be quite funny to watch David Calder yell at, or not David Calder, Colin Firth yell at people.
I think we should go with him. I think he's the good pick. Also,
right.
I mean, like, blockbuster right there. Am I right?
I mean, he just crushed it in the last Bridget Jones's Diary. He's back. He's in that, right?
I don't think so.
All right. Next up, Dr. Michel Lebrun, the our French second in command.
Yeah. So my pick again was one person, and I was really focusing on the French, and I don't know why this person popped into my head, but I was like, who would add something obviously like really French and just add something to this essentially non-character that we're getting. And so I went with Vincent Cassel.
Oh, you know what? Got Vincent Cassel also on my list. It's a double.
Oh, it's got to be him then.
I don't know. You want to hear my second pick? Mm-hmm. I also went French. I went with Léa Seydoux.
Oh, okay.
From Dune and Bond and things. So different pit take, but I was like, well, she might be interesting.
Here's what I'd say. We have to see what a couple other cast members, and then maybe we'll decide.
Oh, you want to come back here?
Yeah, I think we should come back and see if we should gender swap this role.
Great. Suspense.
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Helen Smith, the psychiatrist and psychologist on the station, sort of taking care of people's mental health.
Yeah, kind of. And not getting listened to.
My first pick, who I think is British, I could be wrong, I'm not really sure. Mm-hmm. Florence Pugh.
Yeah, okay, good actress.
And who's your pick, actually? Let's hear that.
I don't know why. Again, I went with like the first thing that popped in my head when I was doing this, and I don't even know if I like this so much, but the first name that came into my head when I was thinking of Dr. Helen Smith was Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet? I don't hate it.
I know. I don't know why.
I don't hate it. My other choice was Jodie Comer.
Okay, I like that too.
I think Kate Winslet. I like Kate Winslet for it. It's a bit more star power, I think. No offense to the other two. I mean, Florence Pugh probably has more star power than Kate Winslet now, but I think, everyone would be like, Kate Winslet, what's going on?
Why is she in this movie?
Get us that Titanic bump.
Is she still bringing that?
I don't know. And then we've got Tom Hill, our handyman, basically our Scotty of the group. I've got for him two choices. One, not British though. J.K. Simmons.
Oh, really different pick. Yeah, that's interesting. It's funny. I actually just saw his face came up on something today. It was showing. Like it sometimes shows like people aging. It showed him over the last 10 years. I'm like, he looks exactly the same.
Yeah, he hasn't aged at all.
Yeah, good pick.
And what's your choice?
Mine is, again, it was the first person that popped into my head, and I was like, I guess all these characters are going to be, it's like, you just leave these casts to make something out of this, like these non-roles. So I went with Paul Giamatti.
Paul Giamatti.
I don't know why.
I don't know. That's a good question. He's interesting. What did I hear he's making now? He's making the Art Bell biopic.
Oh, I feel like he's very watchable though, you know?
That's true. All right. I think my third pick might be somewhat similar in tone in that, like, you're going to get someone who's just going to make something out of this role, whether you want him to or not. And that is Tom Hardy.
Oh, Tom Hardy. You know what?
He's going to put a voice on. He's going to do a crazy voice.
It's got to be him. Because you're right. That's what it's going to be. You're going to be like, oh, that's an interesting choice he made.
Every choice is going to be out of control.
Yeah. So I think that's who we go with.
All right. Well, shall we go back to Dr. Michel Lebrun?
Mm-hmm.
LeBron? Yeah. I don't know what it is.
Well, who's playing against Kate Winslet? Who else do we got?
Colin Firth
and
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. So I don't know.
It's a coin toss. Let's just bring Léa Seydoux in here. A little class to it. I mean, I love Vincent Cassel, but I think between Tom Hardy and Colin Firth, we've got like character actors covered.
I was gonna say you got too many guys making odd choices.
Not that I don't love a good Vincent Cassell, but maybe we'll just shake it up a little. Honestly, this will sort of decide the rest of it. Is really who the director is going to be. I've got two choices. Yeah. I assume you have one.
I have one. Yeah.
I'll start with my first one. I was trying to think who can take bureaucracy and do something with it, and my first choice is Edward Berger, director of a movie I haven't seen, but I assume it's very bureaucratic, Conclave.
I haven't seen it either. I heard it was fun.
I've heard it's good.
Maybe you're right. Maybe that's a good pick. Someone who's able to take something which on paper
quite dry
seems very quite dry and makes it something else. I think that's a good pick. Well, I'll give you mine. And again, mine were just like they were inspiration. Now, was it a good inspiration? I don't know, but it's the first things that popped into my head.
These things just hit your head.
Yeah. Someone's telling me something. I'm just high-fiving baby Jesus. So my pick for the director, and I'll apologize if I pronounce his name wrong because I'm terrible about those sorts of things. Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho. Oh, interesting. I
just thought he's someone who always like, even if the movie's maybe not great, he's always got an interesting kind of take on things. So I think like stylistically it would look kind of really interesting, and you'd be like, that's weird, and maybe that's what like I thought maybe that's the kind of slant this thing would need,
Bring a little humor to it, possibly, kind of work it out. Well, my third pick is or my second pick anyway, I was like, who can handle bureaucracy? That was a big thing for me. I'm like, who can handle this kind of work? He's going to have to write it because there's no other way he can do it, but Aaron Sorkin.
Oh, let's go with Aaron Sorkin. It's so ridiculous.
No, I like your pick. I think that's that's the only who would make the movie actually potentially good.
Yeah. There's just like some really like crackling dialogue. People are there's a lot of speeches, and you're like, I'm really interested in space.
Let's split the difference. Let's get Aaron Sorkin to write it and Bong Joon-ho to direct.
It's a great idea. I mean, this thing now with that Titanic bump you mentioned, this thing is a hit.
It's Apple's first $1 trillion movie. That's what they spent, not what they make. They exactly. $20,000 at the box office.
No, it's direct to video, and they're not going to advertise it at all.
Yeah, perfect. It does win an Oscar though.
I have to say though, this is one of the more interesting things we've put together. I think.
It's an interesting one. It's pretty straight. I think that's like puts it together. But I will say if I saw a trailer and I'm just like, this is the movie, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to see this again.
Yeah, I'd be like, did people just randomly throw this together?
Yes.
Well, there you go. This movie already sounds better than the TV show we're going to have to talk about here.
Well, that is true. Here's the IMDb summary for episode 3, Achilles' Heel. Well, Calder is pressurized. I haven't read these notes, but apparently that's what it said on IMDb. Well, Calder is pressurized to deliver results from Moonbase 3's research program.
Probably pressured.
I think it was written as pressurized.
Right.
Under threat of budget cuts, the Cora Radio Astronomy Project is thrown into disarray by a series of accidents, and that was truncated summary went on for quite a while from IMDb by a gentleman named Gus F., who I believe has written summaries on IMDb for us before.
Watching these 2 episodes, and obviously we'll talk of them one at a time, I'm left with a feeling that they have one plot and they keep just doing that same episode. Don't you feel like at least 3 of these 4 episodes is pretty much the same episode, which is there's stress in space, it makes people kind of act funny, at the same time there's sort of pressure to get work done. Isn't that pretty much the plot of these episodes?
I mean, that's definitely the engine of the show for sure.
Yeah, and it's I'm going to say that engine's not working for me as much as it was at the beginning.
I mean, it certainly doesn't help also that just like every episode is like a brand new cast of guest stars to be able to, so you like kind of, it's not like we're watching someone go through like a larger arc. It's just like every episode is like, I'm under pressure. Okay.
Yeah.
I won't see you next week, so I don't care.
Which, yeah, it's interesting that you mention that because they do bring new people every episode, and you would think they would play off the main characters a little bit more. And it's not like they don't. They interact with them and stuff, but it is funny. It's like every episode they're like, hey, here's 2 new people who are kind of under pressure. And I think the goal is, and maybe you disagree with me, I think what they're trying to do is obviously have people get brought into the show that maybe will die or go through some sort of conflict. But I think they're also trying to show how big this space station is and how many different facets there are and how many different science experiments they're doing. But it's weird. I don't get the sense, like, when I'm watching it, I don't feel like, ooh, this is an expansive station. I just feel like, oh, here's a guest star I don't care about.
Yeah, it's like here's another room. Look, I wonder who's in it. Guy I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't exactly know why. Like, it's so easy to go, it's boring, and it is boring. But I don't exactly know what it is. It's just like, it's just not firing,
We'll get into it. I have a feeling what it is also the drama that's baked in is very low-key, very British. So it's not even like high drama. It's like pretty low drama on top of that.
Yeah.
Nobody's that upset or like that worried about anything. They're just like, all right, well, I'm feeling glum. I hate to hear it.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, it starts on the surface of the moon. We've got two scientists, Adam and Bill. They're working on a project out there, and Bill's air suddenly runs out, and we get a dramatic scene where he's like collapsing from suffocation as Bill runs across or maybe Adam, I guess, runs across the moonscape to save Bill.
Yeah.
And back on Moonbase 3, which took me, because it's so, it's hard to follow. There's like, Calder's upset about something. They're freaking out over an accident, and I thought it was this accident that we were watching. But they're actually upset about a different Kate, who's the boss of the two astronauts who are out suffocating, but that no one apparently knows about. They're upset about an accident because the radio telescope she's working on got kind of damaged when she forgot to turn on a failsafe. So I was just like, there's like two simultaneous accidents happening. One, a man's life. The other, a slightly broken piece of equipment. And they're treating it with the same level of like problem.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that because I felt the exact same way. I was confused at the beginning. I was like, wait, what are they talking about? They keep talking about this antenna or something, and I think it's a flaw of the show that they added that on. Because I guess they're trying to build that there's a sabotage or there's someone isn't doing their job properly. But I was like, we already just watched this guy suffocate. Isn't that enough for the episode? Like, can't you make a whodunit out of that?
Well, the problem is it's happening simultaneously, so they don't know one's happening outside. Eventually they cut back and they're still saving this guy who's suffocating. But it's like one of them's high drama, and when you cut back, you're like, oh, they must be worrying about this accident. It's like, no, they're worried about a damaged equipment. And then we cut back and he's still, I'm like, wait, these are happening concurrently. Yeah, it makes it very weird because like one's really high stakes and one's really low stakes, but they have the same treatment.
Yeah. And don't worry. There'll be a lot of meetings where they'll talk about something and Calder will get angry and yell. Isn't he the worst, by the way? He's the worst.
He definitely is. This episode, he is very pissed off for most of the episode. And it's because the Director General of the European Space Agency is breathing down his neck to deliver more results because they're spending so many, quote, Euro dollars on this project.
Yeah.
How close were they to getting euros? They were so close. They called them Euro dollars. They were so close.
Yeah. They were pretty good with that.
Anyway, why he's so upset this episode is that there have just been a string of these minor but very costly accidents that have happened just apparently a lot recently. So he's just dealing with a lot of just like small annoyances that are causing him to like become this like insane person this episode is what they posit anyway.
And there's a weird thing that happens here, which is David Calder and Michelle Lebrun. They have this conversation with at one point where they're sort of having, so they're number 1 and 2, and they're having a disagreement on how one should discipline essentially. Mm-hmm. And David is a little bit weirdly a little bit more forgiving, and Michelle is a little bit more sort of mercurial of the two. And I thought that was going to be more of the episode, and it's there, but it's sort of like this scene happens and they're like, anyways, David sort of makes his decision, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. Like there's some meat there, like sort of like the conflict of management. Maybe there's something interesting in an episode there, maybe not. But it's weird that they had this scene and then it was like what was the point of it? To show like David's in charge? I'm like, wow, amazing.
Yeah, it was very much just like David's not as hard on them as he could be, I guess. But I don't know what that amounts to because it doesn't change who he is or his like approach. It's not like he learns a lesson that he should be a little more hard. He doesn't learn that lesson. And Lebrun barely exists as a character, so he learns nothing.
Yeah. He's in like 2 scenes.
Anyway, this episode mostly revolves around this radio telescope team of Kate, the boss, Adam and Bill, the 2 scientists who work for her. And essentially, Bill is getting ready to blow up his career. He's had it with working on the moon. He's worried that his wife is going to cheat on him if he doesn't get back to Earth soon. Mostly he worries about that because his coworker Adam keeps being like, your wife's so hot, she's going to cheat on you.
That was funny. And there was, again, it's almost like anything that seems interesting or sort of enticing, they're like, anyways, let's brush that off because we want to focus on the paperwork. Isn't that stressful? And it's like, there's actually something sort of relatable about it. There's a guy, I think they say, I can't remember what the exact number is, but it's like he's been married for like a year and a half.
Yeah,
and for
it's
a
new
year
marriage.
of that, he's been up at space. So he hasn't been with his wife very long. So he's feeling a little bit insecure in the relationship, despite her sort of like telling him on a video call later that like, no, everything's fine. He feels like his job is suffering. He actually doesn't really like being up there. He wants to go with his wife. And then it doesn't help that he has a coworker kind of being a jerk, being like, your wife's pretty hot. Like, there's no way she's not cheating on you. And it's like that's in the episode, and it kind of comes back a few times. But I don't know. It's like, it's not what they focus on. They focus on this like non-mystery of like, are people too stressed out and maybe making mistakes? And I was like, okay, is that interesting? I just, maybe it's just not to me.
Fair enough. I mean, maybe they don't make enough meat out of that relationship. It comes up and goes, and we'll get into a little bit, but that's what's happening with them.
Yeah.
The boss, Kate, meanwhile, there's been a damage to this telescope that appears to be her fault. It's a dumb mistake she made. She's feeling a bit burnt out, and she's feeling a bit like a liability to the team. She's considering also resigning, but Calder won't let her. And as we sort of see her side of it, where she's just feeling bad about this, her underling Adam, who also is trying to convince his coworker that his wife's cheating on him. Adam's also fueling rumors that she's past her prime as a scientist and should retire.
Yeah,
which is very funny because there's a part of this is supposed to be about, is she over the hill? Is Bill going to blow up his career to go back to his wife? But we, the audience, see pretty clearly that this Adam guy is quite the instigator. He's poking everybody with a stick. I'm like, let's get to it. Like, I understand that the problem here is Adam and not these other two.
Well, and also, it was funny because you don't see Kate for a while in the show. Like, they talk about her quite a bit. And you hear at first, you're like, oh, maybe she's getting a little old and she's, losing her step. And then you see her and I'm like, what is she, 45 years old?
Yeah,
it's not like she's old. Like, I was like, it's not like I thought I was going to see like a 75-year-old woman. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, like, there's a point. She's like well past the point of like a normal retirement or something. But it's like, she's like a normal middle-aged woman. Anyways, it was bizarre.
And then, of course, there's the base counselor, Dr. Smith, who's one of the regulars. She's watching this. She's a bit worried about the stability of the team, with Bill wanting to quit and go back to his wife, and Kate giving up on herself. And the only person she doesn't have any qualms with is Adam, because Adam has started to flirt with her. And what we'll see throughout the episode is Adam showing her any sort of attention distracts her from the fact that Adam's clearly a monster.
Yeah, it's weird. It's odd how they do it, but yeah, she's sort of like she's very impressed with the attention. She
should be a little more. It's not that she's not aware of him. He's on Moonbase because he was passed over for a Venus mission that went up because he has some heart conditions, and he's a bit bitter about it. That's clear. He's a bit bitter about missing the chance to go, but like kind of always brushes it off when it's brought up. He does seem like he has issues, but because he spends so much time like kind of trying to start a relationship with her, somehow the episode gives us the idea that she's distracted by that, so she doesn't notice the like red flags around him.
I should also say, I think the best thing of this episode, and this is not saying much, is there's a set piece they have where Adam and Helen have sort of a drink and a chat on this green bench chair, and I love the look of it. It was like this weird, I don't even know how you describe it. It was like a corrugated sort of lined, almost mid-century futuristic bench, and I was like, that's great looking, and I was focusing on that and not paying attention to the conversation, and then they finished talking, I was like, it didn't matter anyways.
That's
nothing
right.
they're saying matters.
They went in there, they went to the machine that gives you a gin and tonic for some reason. They're like, gin and tonic? And they just reach into a machine and out comes a glass of gin. I'm like, oh, that's a weird thing to have on the moon, but okay.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to have a drink, you want to do it on that bench, let me tell you.
That bench is beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyway, as it progresses, Bill is convinced to stay on the moon by his wife because you said they have a video call. His wife's just like, no, it's fine. Yeah. Why would you throw away your whole career? Like, you have 6 months left. Just get through it.
Yes, I should say, you're right. She makes a very good point. She's just like, I know it's tough on the moon. I know you're stressed out, but like, honestly, you don't have much longer to go. And like, I'm telling you now, you have nothing to worry about. Like, let me reassure you. And he's still like, nah, that's not enough.
No, I mean it does convince him. He ends up deciding to stay, and he gets reassigned because the thing that Kate broke has slowed down the research. He's going to be put on a shift at a remote base called Delta Base. So his friend and coworker Adam drops him off there, and they drive over in a moon rover. He drops him off to do his shift on this isolated base. And as Adam drops him off, he's like, "Oh, by the way, nice that your wife told you to stay. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that Calder actually canceled all leave from the station, and like I'm sure they would have let you leave though." Like he basically stirs all kinds of shit before he's just like, "I'm gonna make sure this guy I'm gonna leave here by himself is now insane before I drive away." Like a conspiracy has kept him here. That his wife is cheating on him, and that Calder is like forcing it to happen.
Yeah, and is this? Right after this, is this when him and Helen start kissing?
Yeah, it's around this time. He like goes to visit her, and he's like, "How about a little smooch?" And she's just like, "Okay." But that's probably back on that Moonbase after he drops Bill off there.
Well, she says, so they start like flirting. They start kissing. She says, he's like, "Let's keep going." She goes, "No." He keeps going.
That's a little. Pushing it. That's a little.
And then she
later.
Slaps him.
That's a little later.
Oh, okay.
This is still when the relationship is kind of working. Maybe it might come together.
All right.
Because Bill goes back to the space station, and this is when Dr. Smith, she's been looking at all the trends in the team, and she's like, so many oversights, so many accidents. It's almost as if someone were sabotaging us. How could there be so many small accidents? Around that point, they get a call from Delta Base. Bill, who's been riled up by Adam, is now threatening to smash up the entire base unless they send him home. And they're like, "Well, we did it. We figured it out. Bill must be causing accidents to get us to send him home." Like, and it's just so funny. Me, the audience, perhaps it's from a modern age where I'm like, "Oh my God, I know that's not what's happening. I've seen Adam doing all of this."
Well, just like you're saying, you probably make a good point from watching it from like a modern perspective. But Adam might as well have like a evil mustache and might as well be like twirling it the whole time. And they're like, "I think it's that guy over there." I'm like, "Yeah, I think it might be the guy with the evil mustache."
I think most audiences would get it. I think it's just supposed to be like you're watching to watch when the other characters figure it out. But it is very frustrating. But yeah, this is right. Your point. It's like Bill's gonna smash this place up. He's freaking out. Dr. Smith's like, "All right, let's get his buddy Adam, who he trusts." All the audience are just like, "We can't trust that guy." It's like, me and him will drive out there. We'll talk Bill down. We'll tell him we'll get him on the next shuttle home. He doesn't have to smash up Delta Base. And that's when they drive back out there. They sedate him and put him to sleep. And you're right. Bill's just like, "Hey, I've been flirting with you for an entire episode. Let's get it on." And Dr. Smith's like, "You know what? Now is kind of an inappropriate time in the middle of this crisis." And he goes like, he goes full incel. He's like, "You're friend zoning me? You're friend zoning me?"
Yeah. She has to hit him. He sort of leaves grumpy, and then I guess what we're supposed to believe. Luke, correct me if I'm wrong. He sort of like goes in a huff, is what he does, right? Yes. He throws like a huge huff.
Yeah, that's it. And when Bill comes out of sedation, they're like, "All right, let's drive back to Moonbase now." And Bill's just woken up. He doesn't know any of this has happened. They're in the car, and he's just like, "It's really awkward in here. Like, Adam, you seem really upset. Do you want me to drive?" And Adam's just like, "No, I'm fine." He's like, "All right, well, can you like turn on the air conditioning?" He's like, "Sure." And then he drives them off a cliff.
Yeah, to be fair, he's going, I think, faster than he should be. And Helen's like, "Just leave him. Like, I just slapped him in the face. Like, he's a little pissed off." But yes, I like it's he gets momentarily distracted by trying to turn the air conditioning on. That the little miniature car goes off the edge and smashes. You're like, "Oh no! Did people get hurt?" You're like, no, they're fine. Don't worry.
They're fine.
This is Moonbase 3. No one ever gets hurt.
Cut to, they've been rescued. They're back at the base, and Dr. Smith explains the psychological situation that created this, which is essentially Adam was really upset about not going on that Venus mission, so he's subconsciously been lashing out at his team and creating all the accidents that happened, and so that other people get blamed. And I'm just like, what? And I guess so. I guess that kind of, but I'm just like, some of these would have had to be conscious decisions.
I thought the exact same thing. It seemed like they were letting him off the hook for some reason. They were like, he didn't purposely do these things. I'm like, yeah, but he knew he was doing. So I don't. It's like, "Oh, did you push the person off the cliff?" You're like, "Yeah, I didn't mean to kill him though, but I did push him off the cliff." It's like, okay, well, what are we talking about here? What semantics are we arguing over?
Certainly, some of the accidents are just like, well, you would have to constantly make a choice to turn something off for that accident to have happened, like the suffocation of his partner, the thing that he broke. Anyway, he's getting sent home. Kate's keeping her job, and Bill's gonna work his last 6 months. The end.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, we're back to the status quo. Awesome. Don't worry. They can keep working on these science experiments that seem to have no effect on anything.
Anyway, we'll keep going. Here's the IMDb summary for episode 4, Outsiders.
Ordinarily, one would pity the man who is forced to steal rather than the man who is stolen from. But you have attempted to steal from science itself. I'm going to cover up this hoax for the sake of the base and your colleagues. You will return on the shuttle after next. I don't want you traveling with Hauser. Now get the hell out of here!
Faced with an inspection ahead of potential budget cuts, Calder's hopes of demonstrating that the Moonbase 3 research program is worthwhile lie with two brilliant but equally troubled researchers. I don't know if I read that right. I can't read my writing, but we'll go with that. That was another truncated summary from Gus F.
Yeah, my first note that I wrote here after reading that summary was, this is the same plot for the last 3 or 4 episodes. I hate this show.
Well, and once again, we start with a moonwalk.
Yeah.
So, and it's my favorite part is we get this moonwalk. It's a new scientist. He bends over. He picks up a rock and he looks at it. He's like, "This is a cool." And he's just nodding. He's like looking at this cool rock. I'm like, "Okay, I can't wait to see why this rock's so cool."
But you're downplaying it because this goes on for so long. We have to watch it in real time of him walking in that sort of like slow, bouncy spacewalk, which great looks pretty decent, looks realistic. But you have to watch it in real time. A man bouncing, no one's saying anything. He finds a rock, he picks it up, looks at it slowly, walks around somewhere, and I was like, honestly, this is not a television show. It's like you have to pick, make the rock glow, and have it glow, and then you go, ooh, and I'm like, ooh, why is that rock glow? It's nothing. He lady picks up a rock. It's the most boring opening scene to an episode you could possibly think of.
Well, for this guy, his name is scientist Stephen Partness.
Yeah.
This rock he finds that he's so excited about it could save his career, but unfortunately for him, everyone on Moonbase 3 finds him utterly unlikable for some reason.
Yeah. Did you find him that unlikable?
No, he seemed fine.
I thought this would too. He seemed fine. The other guy was awful. The other guy who was subconsciously killing people, he was way worse.
It's just so funny. The whole episode is just like, everyone finds him annoying. And I'm just like, I'm like, even Calder's like, he's so annoying, I can't wait to send him home. I'm just like, I don't know, man. He seems no worse than anyone else on this. He kind of actually seems friendly.
Yeah. Let me just make the point that we barely mention the main characters other than Helen in that first episode.
They rarely track on the show.
Because they're inconsequential. It's amazing that they should have just made this like an anthology show that takes place on this station and you have different adventures or something, because it's like the only point for Calder, who's already an annoying character, he's actually just so much worse. He just shows up in every scene and is like, we've got to cut because of budget. I can't believe this. And then he rants and raves. I'm like, I hate him. Like, I can't believe I'm saying this. Like, I was watching this and I was like, you know what I miss? You know what I miss? I miss Sam Casey from Gemini Man, or like Bobby Man from Man and Machine, or Captain John Boone from Space Rangers. Anything. I would rather take the problematic douchebag, straight white guy that we've seen in those terrible late 80s, early 90s show, because at least they have like some sort of false charm. This guy it's so boring. It's like having like a human dictionary. I hate him. I hate him.
You're right. I would say that Calder and Dr. Smith generally in these episodes seem to be if not major characters, like pretty like reasonably like focused on characters, whereas the other two main characters, Braun and Tom Hill, man, they barely exist. And
I kind of liked Tom Hill in the beginning. I thought they were going to do like a sort of like Bones sort of thing. I thought he was going to be kind of your curmudgeon-y like counterpart to David Calder. That's the sense I got in at least the first episode. But it's like, no, he'll occasionally get on the speaker and be like, hey, I'm here too. You're like, oh, awesome, great. I back to Calder going, the budget.
But that's not what this show's about, Jordan. What the show's about is this scientist Partness and his rock, and his only friend on the station, Dr. Peter Conway, who is also on the verge of a scientific breakthrough in silver goop.
Yeah, and one of the better things in this episode is watching when later on they do a test on the silver goop, and it's like dripping into a container, which goes on way too long, of course, because of this show. It goes on for like 45 minutes. But actually watching the goo go into the container, I was like, that's fun.
The goop is apparently, I tried to write it down, I think it's some sort of new metal material or something they're going to use to make things. I couldn't quite suss out what the goop was scientifically, but whatever.
They kind of talk around. It's supposed to be some sort of like polymer possibly used for some sort of like mechanical purpose, and they're hoping that by doing tests on the moon, they'll see if gravity affects it differently, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if they ever made a good argument as to why they couldn't do this on Earth when it comes under the budget, and they make that exact argument. They're like, can't we just do this on Earth? And they're like, no, moon. You're like, oh, okay, guys. I think we need to cut this budget.
Anyway, Goop scientist Peter, he wants to support his friend Steven in Steven's attempt to turn his cool new rock into some sort of new fuel source before he's kicked off the moon base for being too annoying.
Poor guy.
And so Steven and Peter essentially, in the context of this show and what they're trying to show of this episode, is there two sides of the same coin, essentially. Peter is successful but quite depressed and unhappy, and Steven is a failure but eager to please and like eager to like do something with his life. So they're friends. They're only two friends on the station, but they kind of have opposite personalities and opposite trajectories in their careers.
Yeah. But did you get that sense, though, of the characters, that they were these opposites? Because I felt they were almost interchangeable, because everything is so, like you sort of mentioned it before. I don't know if it's like a British thing, but everything's so muted that I was like, are they that different? Like, I didn't really feel it.
I mean, I think so. I think there was like, it's part of the problem with him being the most annoying character. He's more like, the one guy feels a little bit more like a puppy dog. He's perpetually trying to like make everyone happy, whereas the other guy's just a sulking nonstop.
Yeah, but I'll be, to be fair, I might have just been so in my rage over how boring David Calder is that I got distracted.
But don't worry, Jordan. There's a psychologist on Moonbase, Dr. Smith. And once again, she's going to solve the problem and or just get into a relationship with one of the two main characters, one of the two guest stars. Wait, it's that one. She doesn't solve anything. She just starts a relationship with the sad sack Peter Conway.
Yeah. I feel bad for her because she gets quite a bit of screen time, but it's not great screen time.
It's so bad that they're like, all right, we've got the psychologist. She's supposed to watch them. What if she had also had a romantic relationship with her patients every single episode?
I know. They don't know what to do with her.
Anyway, as you said, Calder is a major part of this, but he is mostly there to wander around being worried about the economic viability of the moon base because they've got a bean counter coming to inspect them soon, and they better show some results or they're in trouble.
Yeah, he's like, come under budget. Are you kidding me? We're scientists. And I was like, I don't know if it's that unreasonable.
I mean, they're hard research, man. You have to expect some losses.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, much to Calder's delight, Peter's goop experiments have made that new metal, so that's exciting. He can show that to the bean counter when he gets there. And the annoying guy, Steven, who's about to kick off the station, his new fuel's actually working. He's got results that show he's created a new fuel. So he's so excited. Calder's like in the best spirits he's been in episodes. He
throws like a low-key party.
It's true. And they do a big show for the bean counter. They're like, check out this goop, check out this fuel. Everyone's very excited. And like there's this whole thing where like they show them the fuel results and they're like, wow, that's amazing fuel. And they're like, come have some drinks with us. He's like, no, I got to clean up my lab first. They're like, you can do that later. And that's just a setup. When Steven goes back to clean up his lab, one of the lab techs is in there and look, he's cleaned up the lab. He's just like, hey, you faked all that. You faked your entire thing. That's not real. You didn't create new fuel. And he's like, uh-oh, I'm caught.
Yeah, he's just like, yeah, you're right.
He gives in so fast. He's like,
yeah, I know.
I did fake all my results.
I think it's literally like one sentence. Like the guy's like, you faked everything. He's like, yeah, I used this fake fuel over here. It's like, man, even like take a breath before you just give it all up.
Well, his reasoning is he's just like, I just need a few more weeks and I'm getting kicked off the station. So if I had a few more weeks, I would crack the code on this. Yeah. Which is it's just like, how is that true? But okay.
I actually thought that was one of the more interesting aspects of the show. And again, to me, weird that they didn't focus on it because the idea that someone in their mind has done, it's like a white lie. They've done the wrong thing, but they've done it for the reasons because they knew that bureaucratically they wouldn't get an extension. So they're like, well, I'll just bend the rules. There's something to be said about
for sure
how lots of businesses, whenever Silicon Valley, people lie about their results so that they can hopefully get there. I think it was almost like a very forward-thinking idea for this show, but they sort of just like tag it on, and I was like, oh, it's kind of a bummer. Like actually watching this guy's journey might have been more interesting, of him going through this and going like, getting pushed to the brink and then going, geez, I'm just going to fake it so that, and watching that kind of spiral out of control.
We get like a few scenes where he's working on it, and we get a sense it's not going well. But he's no one to talk to. He's no one to like express this. It happens quickly, and when he's found out, he really quickly like gives up the truth of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, as a result, he's now definitely getting kicked off the moon. There's a shuttle leaving with the bean counter to head home, who's still kind of happy. They still have the gloop results to bring back, so there's some positive things. And the spaceship takes off, and then they get a report that, hey, someone's wandering around on the moon. And Calder's all angry. He's just like, God damn it, it's that Steven, isn't he? He didn't get on his spaceship to go home. I'm so mad right now. So Dr. Smith goes to get his best friend, the only guy who likes him. What's his name? Peter the gloop scientist. And when she gets there, she's like, Peter's not in his apartment. In fact, he's left a very poetic suicide note.
Yeah, he he wrote it. He didn't just write like a normal suicide note. He wrote like, he like really did it. He's like, people are gonna like this.
He's basically just like, I'm not built for this age. I'm from a different time. I don't. My work doesn't bring me satisfaction. I just want to go out. I just want to like not live in this period of time. And also, when she goes into his apartment, Peter, the rock scientist, has not actually left. He's just been hanging out in this guy's apartment.
I didn't understand that. I think they just needed to explain that he was missing, but he was just, I don't know, hanging out.
Yeah, he in fact did not leave when he was supposed to, but he also was just hanging out on the station. Anyway, they run to a radio to try to call this guy and stop him, but it's too late. He's taken his helmet off. This guy's committing suicide on the moon. It's pretty, actually, honestly, pretty sad, and also a huge mistake by their psychologist.
Yeah. Let's say you're on the moon and you're like, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to end it. Would you do it by taking your helmet off?
This guy, he gives a whole thing about how he wants to hear the symphony of the silence of the cosmos. Like, he's very emo, this guy. So, like, it made sense for me for this guy, but not how I would do it.
I may not understand the physics of this, but if you took your helmet off, would you immediately just freeze? Was that what would happen?
I think so. I think you'd pretty quickly just freeze.
Yeah, so it's probably not a great death.
It might be fast, though. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Anyways, he dead. The important thing, though, is Calder is going to sort of fudge the records on it. Like, sort of?
Here's what happens is basically after the suicide and listening to Dr. Smith talk about how, you know, like, you were too hard on Peter who nobody liked, but we both, but like, she's like, but I guess you kind of take some, but like, we ignored the warning signs that anyone could see coming from Peter, because he was so, Steven, whoever, goop scientist, because he was clearly so depressed. Like, it was pretty much his character for the thing. And so they're just like, let's give as a token of gratitude to the guy who died, let's give rock scientist his job back, give him the 2 weeks he needs to finish his fuel. So what we'll do first, Paul is like, all right, great, I will cover up the fact that he faked his results. I'm going to cover that up so no one ever finds out about that. And then we're going to cover up the suicide so that the council doesn't find out we had a suicide. We're going to label it an accident. So he does 2 cover-ups at the end of this episode.
Well, here's what was weird about it. I understand within the episode what they're trying to do. They're trying to show that David sort of has a little bit...
They treat it like compassion.
Yeah, but didn't we see in the very first episode that he was called in because he was a very specific person and he had a very sort of pedantic way of working, and he was brought in and sort of like reamed them all out, the whole crew that we don't ever see, for being, I guess, a little bit too lackadaisical, not appreciating how dangerous space is and blah, 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 and take this moral high road. And then he's like doing the opposite. Like, it was like, really?
Well, here's the thing. They do bring him in to kind of whip them into shape, but it's only because he whipped whatever that university was into shape that was in.
Yeah.
And we never find out how he did that. And you'll remember in that first episode, too, he covers up the death of the original director.
Did he?
Because the main people had ignored the warning signs that guy should be flying.
Oh, you know what? I suppose you're right.
And he blamed it on the director. He covered that up. And I'm not sure, but I have a feeling he covered something up in that last episode with the broken telescope, too. I feel like there was a scene where he's just like, listen, we're just going to cover this up as an accident. I think he's covering up major malfeasance on the moon for most of these episodes.
So do you think that David has good numbers just because he's fudging them all?
Yes, I do. He's covered up a suicide and a scientist faking results. Like, that's crazy.
I think he should stop yelling at people. I'm just saying, glass house here.
It's crazy. It's a crazy show. I'm just like, what? I understand like the point of the end of the episode is to show that they've learned compassion for each other, but like the actual result is like, I'm gonna cover up these like major incidents and not tell anyone.
That's Moonbase 3, you know?
It's a crazy show, man. It's a crazy show. If anything, it might be better if they like really leaned into it and like they're like, we have to fire the psychologist now. She's had 2 relationships with her patients. One resulted in a drive off a cliff. The other one committed suicide. Well, Jordan, what do you think? You want to rate these?
Yeah, let's do it.
So there's Achilles heel, the jerk guy at your office who keeps like causing problems for no reason.
Yeah. What I felt like is I think I was very fair to this show when I first started the first 2 episodes. I think I gave like a 7 or something at the beginning, to be fair. But after watching 4 episodes, I'm now just irritated at this show. It's like watching, like, what would a TV show be like without drama and conflict and humor and plot and character? And it would be Moonbase 3. So I'm going to give this episode a 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's not very good. That episode.
No, it's not.
That episode in particular was kind of annoying because, like, it could see what was happening a mile away. And it's a 50-minute episode. It was like, oh my God, Adam's. And he's not even, like, bad enough to be interesting. It's not even like he's so evil. He's, like, causing real problems. It's, like, kind of just, like, as I've said, an annoying guy at your office who just likes to stir drama for no reason and mostly just makes your day annoying. So, yeah, I'm gonna go 3, I guess. And I don't know why. I just have to pick a number.
Regardless, not great scores.
And then there's The Outsiders, which is, of course, the 2 scientists who both have breakthroughs, but one of them's depressed and one of them's a liar.
Honestly, like, it's the same episode to me. I would like to give it more, but it's like we're 4 episodes in, and the show's just like, it's so boring, man. It's so boring. A 2.5.
2.5. Feel like I agree. For some reason, I think this is a 0.5 better than the last episode, but I can't quite put my finger as to why. So I'll go 3.5.
I mean, it's honestly, the idea, I think you said it before, the show's got an idea, and there's something, the concept's kind of interesting of like this very real take on what it would be like to work on a moon base doing these sort of scientific tests. But man, they just focus on the worst minutia and the most boring things, and I don't understand why. It's like they're almost purposely trying to make a joyless TV show. They're like, we don't want anything that reeks of silly TV. It's like, but that's what people like on TV. They like characters, they like plot, they like conflict, they like adventure, anything. It's like, that's why it's on TV. Like, this is like reading like a pamphlet to like an instruction manual of an appliance. It's just like, why is this on TV?
I think I've said this in a previous episode, but I think what it is ultimately this can only work if it's like human drama, like if it's an interesting human drama with characters and like conflicts between them, and they're not good enough at writing that stuff to make that stuff. I think I can tell that's what they want to do. Yeah. They're not good enough writers to like tell a doctor show where it's not so much about the cases, it's about the doctors and like how they interact with each other. Yeah, it seems like that's what they want, but they are partly because they're just focusing on every episode's a new subplot with a new character who we're only going to see that episode. Doesn't leave much room for the other characters to grow, and even then the drama between them is so sloppily written it doesn't work.
I'll tell you what though, this Bong Joon-ho joint is gonna be amazing.
Yeah, it's gonna blow up. All right, that about wraps it up for this episode of Moonbase coverage. So, listener, thank you for joining us. We will have clips from Moonbase, some goop, moonwalks, rock.
That car falling off the
moon crash.
That's about it. Yeah, and I don't know, just, you know what should be there is the guy walking for 45 minutes to pick up that rock.
Oh, I'll have the rock. Don't worry, the rock will be there. You can find all those on our social media, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, TikTok. The handle is @ContinuumDrag, except on Blue Sky, which is more complicated. But if you just type in Continuum Drag, you'll find it. Don't worry. Of course, that's about it. That wraps up the episode. So, listener, thank you for joining us. And Jordan, see you on the next one.
Oh, there's only 2 more. Thank God.
Can't get enough Continuum Drag? Commission a bonus episode for charity.
Want us to watch an episode we missed after using the escape pod or during a best of run? No problem.
Is there an episode of a series we've never watched or a TV movie you want us to cover? You got it.
Wish we'd comment on your favorite movie, content, or other weird media? Sure, why not?
All you have to do is make a donation to one of the charities selected by past guests on our website.
We suggest a donation of $50 per television hour of content we're watching, but everyone's means are different, so give what you can.
Get all the details about bonus episodes for charity on our website, continuumdrag.podbean.com, or follow the links in our social media profiles.
Continuum Drag is recorded in Ontario, Canada, and Seoul, South Korea. Theme music by James Rick Seidler. Produced by Jordan Dullock and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Hughes.